Fab. So for this part of the evening, we are going to be chatting to some experts in physical wellbeing. Obviously, you've met Sally, but if you guys could kindly introduce yourselves and the work that you do.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jamie Millar. So I used to be on staff at Men's Health magazine. I worked there for about 4 years, and I've been freelance now for about the same amount of time, and I'm a contributing editor to the magazine still, so I write for them and also a number of other publications about health, fitness, wellness, personal development, self-optimization, whatever you want to call it, anything that makes you better.
I'm Alex. I work for a company called GoSweat. We help companies get as many of their staff to be as active as possible by offering them access to thousands of different weekly options to try and fit in with their individual lives, their schedules, and whatever day-to-day life throws at them.
You've met me already.
You've met me. Catwin. Have you always been interested in physical wellbeing? What was your journey into that like?
So my journey into physical well-being started when I watched Fight Club at the impressionable age of 16 and saw Brad Pitt, and I thought, yeah, if I have a six-pack like that, then my life will be better. And so I started reading Men's Health, and yeah, was a subscriber from a very early age, and then I got into the journalism industry. I actually started originally working at GQ. I was just saying to these guys, so I used to write more about men with their clothes on. And I still do write about fashion a little bit, but then when I got the chance to move to Men's Health, it was a long-held dream for me, and then I was really stoked to kind of get involved with that and try and practice what I preach.
Well, have you always been interested in?
Yeah, I think my parents generally say that I kind of was catching a ball before I could walk. Was never happy than when I had some form of ball in my hand. I'll leave that one for interpretation. And then kind of throughout my childhood, played pretty much every sport under the sun. Always with decent level, nothing spectacular. And then kind of always continued through uni. Probably started going to the gym when I was a morbidly obese 14, 15-year-old, and then kind of went through a few different journeys around doing lots of different things, and then kind of settled into now just doing a whole range of different things. We don't have a specific routine, don't have a kind of Monday is this, Tuesday is that. Just like to fit in things here, there and everywhere when it works for my schedule pretty much.
Yeah.
So we touched on it a little bit earlier, but from your perspective, why do you think physical wellbeing is so important at work, and what kind of benefit does it have for you in your workplace?
Do you want to go first this time?
I mean, kind of the main reason is that we spend so much time at work. So we spend 60% of our lives at work. And then, like I said before, the kind of constant connectivity means that our boundaries between work and home life are really blurred. So even when we're not at work, we've still got emails pinging, we're still maybe thinking about it. So being happy and healthy and looking after all aspects of our well-being at work is hopefully and should kind of infiltrate those other areas of our lives. And then what do I personally do in my work for well-being? I'm more flexible and work for myself. But for me, really, I need about half an hour every day just to do something for myself. And I think I've learned kind of as I've got older, I've just become a lot more intuitive about what do I actually need. So whereas before I might be like, okay, come on, let's go for a run or do like a vinyasa class, like a yoga class sometimes. Right now, actually, just maybe just need to sit down and do meditation, or maybe just sit and have a cup of coffee and just not be on any screens or read a book. Just take a bit of time out for me.
Yeah.
Part of our kind of journey into GoSweat and how we all set it up was that we thought that physical wellbeing in the workplace was pretty broken. And we felt that most companies like to tick a box to say, oh, we do something. What that is didn't really matter because it wasn't designed to do anything. It was just designed to be a box ticker. And so our whole kind of thesis around GoSweat is that everyone is an individual. And so what wellbeing is to one person is different to what wellbeing is for another. And so I don't think physical wellbeing at work as a concept, you have one clear solution. You can't cater to absolutely everyone's needs. However, there's lots of ways out there that you can really improve the vast majority of people's well-being. Obviously, at GoSweat, we're a little bit biased and give people access to our platform, and they can pick and choose anything they want to do. But alongside that, one of our team here has done fairly high level kayaking and paddling. We've got other people that love to go go for a run, do a park run. For me, it's just about doing something each day. I don't really mind that much what it is. It's just about fitting in and having my schedule, whatever that may be, and always finding time to do something around that schedule.
Cool. I mean, well, health is fundamental. I mean, if you don't have your health, you can't do your job. You can't do work. You probably won't be at work. You'll probably be at home in bed or in the hospital. So, people say that work isn't life and death. Health is life and death. So, on a fundamental level, if you don't have that, you're in trouble. But beyond that, I think, on a slightly more positive spin, if you want to do the best work, if you want to, be productive and creative, then putting yourself in an optimal state to do that is really, I think, where physical health and wellbeing comes in. And again, that isn't necessarily about smashing yourself at Barry's boot camp or, getting up at 6 a.m. to do a 10-mile run. It might just be about, going for a 20-minute walk in the morning on the way to work to get some more sunlight, or, just taking a break in the middle of the day and doing something that isn't work-related. So, it doesn't have to be, green juices and meditation, but although those things are great, but it's just about actually putting yourself in the right frame of mind where you can work well, because ultimately human beings aren't machines, we're emotional beings. So, you guys have all experienced this, if you're not feeling it, if the words aren't flowing, you can't kind of force that. So sometimes you have to take a step away. Working isn't always about being at your desk. It's about going home, eating a good dinner, getting 8 hours of sleep, as we discussed earlier, and coming back in the morning ready to actually do another good day's work.
So someone that we work with once said, and I may claim credit for this depending where I am, but said that for him, if he hasn't done exercise, then his brain feels like a radio that's not quite tuned. And so for him, he has to do something in the morning, otherwise he simply doesn't function quite the same way. I think what you said about kind of just going for a walk or whatever, one thing that some of our team have done, and I do it for interviews, is we've got a park nearby. If I'm interviewing someone, put a headset on and walk around the park whilst I'm interviewing them, and just scribble notes on a post-it note, because why do I need to be sat at a desk to do that?
Yeah, nice taking phone calls. Not about. So you touched on, we're talking about working out, and not just for kind of aesthetics, but also about your mental well-being. What are some of the other kind of proven benefits of exercise that you can bring into the workplace?
I guess some of the biggest ones are mood boosting and stress relief. There's a phrase that mood follows movement. So one of the best things you can do if you're feeling a bit stressed or overwhelmed is just to get up and go for a walk outside. There are plenty of studies which show that even just 10 minutes in a green space, like London Fields, for example, can boost your mood. The Japanese call it forest bathing, which is a very nice way of putting it. You don't have to be naked to do it, by the way. I should just emphasise that. But even looking at, you can. It's frowned upon in some countries. Even just actually looking at a picture of a green space on your screen is actually enough to improve your mood. But ideally, getting outside and getting some vitamin D is definitely a great thing to do.
Yeah, the BBC ran a great article around the benefits of physical activity on mental well-being. It was a huge study by an American university, kind of the largest that's been done into the relationship between the two, and it basically found that if you are physically active, then on average you have 2.5 less bad mental health days a month. And so from a productivity point of view at work, you're in effect you're gaining 2 days of working time if you're physically active. Of course, it's not the cure, but it is a great way to prevent lots of people kind of falling into that downward spiral.
I think, like I said, the more you can do it getting outside as well, especially living in London, we can have a real kind of nature deficit, and there's actually something so uplifting about just being outside. Like I said about vitamin D, like around about this time of year, in the UK, doctors often see a massive deficiency because unless you've got a bit of winter sun and been off the Maldives, this time of year we're so low in it. So actually, kind of come out and being vitamin D deficient can you suffer from insomnia. It can really affect your mood as well. So it all ties in.
people talk about the 3 S's, so sun, sleep, and stress. The first 2 you want, the last one you don't. But again, when people talk about physical well-being, we instinctively think of exercise and we instinctively think of food. But actually, if you don't have those 3 things, even if your diet and your workout regime is absolutely on point, you're really going to suffer.
Yeah. Yeah. On the kind of more technical side, is there any specific forms of exercise that you think you should be incorporating into your week, or a balance of different styles of exercise? I think it can be quite hard to kind of cut through the noise of the fitness world, especially because of social media, to know what's actually right for you and kind of getting a bit more intuitive with exercise.
Well, I mean, people always, one of the questions I always get is, what's the best exercise I should be doing? And a trite but very true answer to that is that the best exercise is the one that you actually do. Like, I can tell you now that HIIT or Tabata or goat yoga is the best thing that you should be doing. But if you don't do them, then it doesn't matter. So it's about what you actually like to do, what actually fits with your lifestyle. Anything is good. Even just walking is great. I always say to people who want to lose weight, for example, that actually one of the best things you can do is just add an extra half an hour of walking into your day, spread out over the course of the day or in 1 month, whatever. But just generally moving more is great. Yeah, and it's just about what makes you feel good ultimately in the day, what puts you in a good mood. Some people love team sports, some people find that the competitiveness actually gets them too jazzed up and then they can't sleep, or they end up getting into a fight. So it's very individual ultimately, but it's what you can actually do and fit in. And again, you don't want exercise to become something that you beat yourself up about for not doing to a certain level. We've got enough things to worry about that we're not doing on our to-do list. So it's just about whatever you can actually manage.
I think you, in our view, you covered the key word there, which is individual. And so if you can find something that you really engage with, that you like, and you actually kind of have fun while you're doing it, then you're probably going to do it over and over again. If you're saying, I should go for a run, then I think the word should is almost is a negative in that situation. I know that I probably should run more, but I really hate running. I'm not very good at it. It's really boring. So I don't really do it, but it doesn't need to be a detriment of other things. There's always something out there that you can do that you will like. There's something out there that you can try, maybe you don't like. I mean, goat yoga, we've got naked yoga on our site. So if you want to do that with a colleague, that's up to you. But
Maybe you want to do it in bigger offices.
Especially if you can see.
Where does naked yoga take place?
It's confidential. It's Clapham. We've got an expert.
Forest bathing in Clapham.
But yeah, it's down to the individual. Find something that really resonates with you. If that's going with a friend, a colleague, a partner, your child, whatever that may be, find something that truly resonates with you, and then you'll enjoy it, and that's the key thing.
It's about balance as well. So not to contradict what I was just saying, but if you are somebody who already has a pretty good, pretty robust physical activity regime, so say you're a keen yoga person, or you love to go to the gym, generally the best kind of exercise for you is the one that you're not doing. So if you're somebody who lifts a lot of weights, maybe you need to do some yoga. If you do a lot of cardio, maybe you need to do some more strength training. In an ideal world, you would have a balance.
That's what we recommend in our sleep workshops as well. Like if you're really kind of doing your HIIT and your CrossFit and then you can't sleep because you're so buzzing, it's like, well, maybe you just need a couple of times a week to do a bit of yoga and Pilates and mellow out. And likewise, if you're just kind of doing a bit of yoga and walking and you're feeling a bit lethargic, maybe you just need to get that heart rate up a couple of times a week. So absolutely.
A lot of people, now we look at professional athletes as kind of paragons of health, and a lot of them are very healthy compared to the general population, but also a lot of them, by the specific nature of what they do, they push their bodies to the point where actually they break and they get injuries and whatever, and they do that because that's their job and they get paid for it. But for us normal people, you want to have a balance of things. You don't want to be, you need yin and yang. You need to balance it out. So you don't want to be injuring yourself again.
What are some of the warning signals that perhaps you don't have a healthy attitude to exercise and or to well-being generally?
I think sometimes when it can become restrictive, particularly around diets. So, there's the term orthorexia, where kind of clean eating, like now, you guys, I wouldn't use the term clean eating, whereas 2 years ago, it was all kind of hashtag clean eating everywhere, wasn't it? So I think, just when it becomes too restrictive, when there isn't that element of balance, we just believe in moderation. It's absolutely fine to have a glass of wine and ice cream. When it becomes too restrictive, and again, when exercise regimes, I think, just kind of take over. Like you say, we're not professional athletes. We're not necessarily built like that. So just when it just feels like it's just taken over your life too much and you're not practicing moderation and balance.
I do also think there's a bit of a HIIT epidemic in that a lot of people kind of burning themselves. I also know that I've done some injuries at HIIT classes because there's very little warm-up and you get straight into it.
That's it, we're kind of short on time, so we're doing these short, sharp... Yeah, I did a HIIT yesterday and I just feel a bit like my back feels a bit sore today and I feel like it wasn't quite right for me. You know, I do think there's definitely, so we're short on time, but we also still need to stretch and be mindful and not overdo it.
Yeah, well, just to add to that, I mean, exercise is a form of stress, so HIIT is a tremendously effective form of exercise, which is why it becomes so popular. Also, it makes you feel like you've had a great workout because you're in a puddle on the floor at the end of it and you can't do anything else, so you think you've got your money's worth for your 20 quid or whatever it costs you. But, again, coming back to professional athletes, they train incredibly hard for a couple of hours or an hour a day, whatever it is, but they also then spend the rest of their time sleeping, recovering, getting a massage, they eat absolutely properly. That probably doesn't apply to most of us in this room who probably haven't had enough sleep, probably haven't eaten adequately. So, again, HIIT is great if you are in a position to deal with it and cope with it, but if, the rest of your life, if you're stressed at work, if you're not sleeping properly, whatever, you need to understand and adjust your activity level depending on, how you feel on a given day.
Yeah, I've got probably a slightly different viewpoint, but that's... So when we, quite early on in kind of the GoSweat journey, myself and one of the other co-founders set ourselves a challenge of doing exercise every day for a year. Now, kind of early on, that was we probably tried out 70 classes within the first 3 months of various different things. I wouldn't always say it's the best kind of thing to do, but I've kind of carried that on, so I've been doing that for too long now, for a while, for 2.5 years or so. And now it's just become part of almost a daily routine. It's almost like brushing your teeth. Sometimes I will get in at 11 o'clock at night and kind of go, I haven't done anything today, and I'll just go and do 20 minutes of yoga or go for a 20-minute run very occasionally, but generally 20 minutes of yoga. And it works really well as that wind down kind of process. I think part of the reason that we did it was to show that if you really do believe in the benefits of physical activity, you can fit it in even when you are working, God knows how many hours, everyone's busy, everyone's working hard. You're not alone in that kind of situation. But if you can kind of understand the benefit of it, then you can generally fit 20 minutes, half an hour into pretty much every day. Now, I'm talking as a kind of a fairly young person without kids, so that may be completely different to someone with kids. But at the same time, if you really dedicate and really understand the benefits of it, then you can generally find 20 minutes, half an hour on any given day to do something.
I think the culture is changing, but do you think we imagine that we have to spend money to exercise? I sort of feel like the more money I spend, the better the workouts, which, and I think home reform Pilates, yes. I think
It's expensive.
30 quid. A workout. But I think home exercise is changing and people are realising that they can... I think it's a bit of a retro throwback to kind of like Davina McCall DVD days, but it's having a bit of a rebrand and people are doing it more and more at home.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be slightly careful with home exercises and that you don't just get into like a corner whereby you're always doing something on your own. I think one of the biggest benefits of exercise is the social element. Now, not all exercise is social, and quite often if you go to the gym on your own, aside from the tube, it's the least social environment you'll ever walk into. As in, if you try and speak to someone, they look down at you like, no thank you. However, if you go with a friend, if you go with a colleague, if you go play some team sports, or even if you go to a fitness class, generally they're a little bit more social because you might buddy up with someone. And so I think the social element for sport is so essential.
That's really huge, especially for me, so because I'm a freelancer, one-man band, so I'm usually working by myself most of the time. So, the opportunity that I get, I go to Fieldworks, which is just on the top of London Fields on a Tuesday night and do a calisthenics bodyweight strength class. And it's small group personal training, so you maybe have like 5 or 6 people in the class at most. I know the trainer, he knows me. It's really nice to just have that opportunity to actually speak to some humans. And similarly, I started doing, because otherwise you can easily go through a whole day with just, apart from the person in the coffee shop who wonders why you're in for the chat. But similarly, I go to Fight Zone at the bottom of Pritchard's Row, which is a martial arts gym. And again, you get to know the people there, you see the same people. Even just to be like, hey, how you doing? It doesn't have to be a hugely in-depth chat, but just to have that little bit of interaction is nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for things that you can put in place to encourage your employees to kind of focus more on their physical well-being?
I would say one of the biggest things, actually I've had the pleasure of interviewing Professor Sir Gary Cooper for an article for Men's Health a little while ago when we were talking about workplace culture, and it's not necessarily about like instituting a lot of wacky schemes to get people doing stuff so much as it's actually making people feel that it's okay to maybe be 5 or 10 minutes late in the morning because they are doing a workout class or something, or to be slightly longer on their lunch break. Because we've all been in those situations in those workplaces where if you're not at your desk and you come in 5 minutes after you're supposed to, somebody's like, half day. It's like that kind of, some of us have made those jokes to people, but actually that kind of thing, is really corrosive, and it really creates this culture where people feel like they have to be at their desks at all times and be seen to be at their desks, otherwise they're not working. And like I was saying before, sometimes the best thing you can do for your work is not be at your desk, whether that's because you're asleep or doing some exercise or whatever.
I feel like I've probably got a very biased answer again to this question, given that that's kind of our whole business is around trying to help companies get their staff to be more active. On a kind of preaching business selling point of view, at our office, people quite often go and do something at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whenever it is. It doesn't really matter. But quite often you'll see if someone says, I'm going to do this at 2 o'clock, and someone goes, ooh, and then they'll check their diary and say, okay, yeah, I'll come with you, that'll be great. So we have a completely kind of transparent, if you want to do something at some point, as long as it's not causing, there's not something in place, then go and do it. If you then want to come in early or stay late or just take an extra hour or 2 off, then just go and do it. Because if you're micromanaging someone's time to that extent, then they're not going to trust that you actually care about their well-being that much. And so you've got to be, as you said, you've got to be fluid and flexible within reason. Now, some businesses can't, but most businesses, if they really look at themselves, they very easily can.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Sally?
Yeah, because a lot of it just comes down to the flexible working conversation as well, doesn't it? Because it's whether, someone might take an hour and a half for lunch to maybe go and do a yoga class and then not come back in a massive fluster and totally, ruin all those benefits. Or it might be because, they've got a, you just go and watch their kid in an assembly or something like that. So, it can be for whatever reason, but just exactly, I think it's so much it just comes down to working, to a degree as much as you can on your own terms within the confines of a company. And just recognising, especially things like exercise, people kind of thrive in people's productivity. They thrive at different points throughout the day. So, some people are owls and some people are larks. So we're all going to have, wouldn't it be so much more productive if we all worked at those key times where we're really on fire, even if it's not necessarily the same time as the person next to you or who's in your team. And likewise, people work out like a much better times throughout the day. So as much as you can, giving people the freedom to tailor their days so they kind of perform the best and feel the best.
I really love that idea, and I've just finished doing a podcast series all about it for Work.Life. Coming to Spotify. And I really want to believe that company culture is changing around this. The slight issue I have is I think in corporates it's perhaps not as caught up as it is in startups, small businesses, for freelancers, and that we're still finding in corporates that it's still pretty hard to get that flexibility or saying, I just need to go to like rocket yoga in the morning. Do you think corporates are changing?
Yes, but they're not going to change overnight. We've worked with some fairly big companies and they've kind of had this mentality of they'd rather offer something that people can then use than really shift exactly what they're doing. It's not going to be a really quick turnaround. I was at a meeting this morning in what felt like grey zone, it was by Lloyd's. It wasn't at Lloyd's, I was at somewhere else, but it was by that in that kind of area, and everyone you could see almost from, I was sat in a cafe and from kind of 7:30 to 8:30 it was just this parade of people who are all going to work for a very specific time to do a very specific job. We'll probably be in there until 6 o'clock and then we'll finish. It's not going to be a sudden switch. There's not going to be a light bulb moment that goes off in everyone's head. However, you have seen some companies that have actually kind of started to realise it a little bit. And as one does it, the next will do it, and then the next will do it, and the next will do it. Because companies generally follow each other.
But also there's a profit imperative for big companies to do it because, really the workplace wellness culture originates in America, and in America the employers bear the responsibility for the health insurance for their employees. So actually it's very much in their financial interest to make sure their employees are healthy and not sick. Never mind the sort of the boost to the productivity that they also get. But I think, as well as the organisational responsibility, there's an individual responsibility. There's some data on workplace wellness programs which shows that actually they don't necessarily always produce great results, because the employees that tend to do them tend to be the ones who are already quite healthy and naturally gravitate towards that kind of behaviour, whereas the smokers and the people who don't maybe eat healthily kind of think, well, sod this, I'm going out for my fag break. So, and also that you can accidentally kind of create a pressure where employees feel like they have to go along with this, and if they don't, that's going to somehow affect their jobs. And you can actually reinforce some pretty insidious kind of neoliberal ideologies about, well, if you don't exercise or you're overweight, well, you're probably lazy, in which case you're probably actually not doing a really good job. And actually that's, again, there's very serious issues with that. So you want to create the opportunity for people to do it, but you don't want to create a pressure where people feel like, oh, if I'm not, entering a triathlon or something, then I'm not really,
hitting up Barry's boot camp.
We've seen companies where they basically enforce that employees will take a gym membership as part of their package. Of course, that individual gets taxed on it, but they almost were shamed into, you have to take this because you have to use it because we want you to use it. But if you look at the stats around that, less than 15% of people are members of the gym. And so you're basically forcing your entire workforce to do something that only appeals to 1 in 7, 1 in 8 people. And I think that kind of culture will die out fairly quickly, especially us entitled millennials that jump from one thing to the next every day. Just don't accept that ultimately.
I think the company gym membership is just definitely on the
Good by David Lloyd.
But what I was saying though before, physical well-being, workplace well-being doesn't have to be about going to the gym. It can just be about going home on time, relaxing, going to sleep, getting enough sleep. That's such a huge thing. And again, I think a lot of us, we feel guilty. We feel like, actually, if I'm not at my desk, if my colleagues are staying late, if my boss is staying late, especially, I need to be at my desk until 9 p.m. or whatever. It's just a really stupid way of thinking about it. And actually, coming back to the example of athletes, I don't think athletes are necessarily always all that healthy. But if you think about your work as a kind of form of training, you do your training. If you're going to do a good day of training tomorrow, you need to go home and recover and relax. You can't just, if you're an athlete, you can't just stay in the gym 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and get forever fitter. You have to work hard at certain points, and then you have to go home and recover. And people should think about it as their job. Part of your job, as part of being a responsible employee, is to go home and get some sleep, and come back refreshed and revived tomorrow. Because otherwise, your productivity is just going to decline, your creativity is going to decline, and in the long term, you'll make yourself ill, and then you won't be able to do a good job. When I am a dad, and when we did the NCT course where they teach you how to be a parent and what childbirth entails, one of the things they actually say to dads is, you've got to look after yourself first, because if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anybody else. And it's slightly counterintuitive, but it's the same with work. If you don't look after yourself, you can't do work, you can't do good work. So actually being a good employee is partly about looking after yourself.
Do you think that, can you imagine a world where exercise culture overtakes alcohol culture at work? Because I feel like booze is something we haven't touched on, but is a big part of workplace well-being. Kind of after work drinks culture, because that for me is one of the reasons that people aren't getting enough sleep and aren't performing their best at work.
It depends on the younger generations, really. They say millennials are drinking a lot less than older generations did, and prefer to hang out at the gym or be on social media. So I think time will tell, and I think it really depends on different cultures. Like I used to work in media, which was like really boozy. Every Thursday night was always a massive party, and then Fridays you just make it through to lunch, and then you'd be in the pub all afternoon. But I had friends who, were in other companies like, I can't believe you do that. So I think it really varies between cultures. But I do feel like time will tell. I do feel like there could be a big shift. Maybe I'm just being a bit old. I'm not sure. Be interested to see. I don't know what you guys think.
I definitely think it is happening. I mean, I've written a few trend articles about sweat working, which is, admittedly maybe only 5 people in New York are doing it, but it's this idea of instead of going for your boozy lunch or your evening drinks, you might go to an exercise class and chat before or after or during if the music's not too loud. But I do think, I don't know if you guys are members of Soho House or Shoreditch House or anything, but if you go there now at lunchtime, you see a lot of people just drinking water. There's a lot more, the new clubs that are opening now, they have a lot more space for gyms. And look at the rise of things like low alcohol beers or zero alcohol beers. There was a shop on Hackney Road, a pop-up shop recently that had over 200 varieties of low or no alcohol beer. And I remember when you used to only be able to get Caliber in a pub and nobody would ever think of ordering it. And actually I think now it is becoming much more common for people to not drink as much. So I think there's obviously still an old school generation who still drink like that, but they are slowly dying out. Probably a bit of a failure.
Yeah, the point you made about the American industry. Generally, the UK is kind of 4 or 5 years behind whatever the trend is in the US, and I think as that builds momentum, that whole kind of go to a boxing class and network over a smoothie, whatever you have afterwards, I think that will grow. I don't think it'll ever become completely mainstream. I don't think alcohol culture is going to die out, but I think that people are a little bit more aware of the impact it has. I mean, we're all sat here, most people are drinking. Michelle's had 4 glasses of wine already.
It's still part of British culture.
It is,
isn't it? And it will be, but maybe the younger generation's not quite as much.
Well, there are some good things that come out of it as well. I mean, obviously, it encourages socialising, it encourages lowering of boundaries and kind of inhibitions, which is a good thing. But it also at the same time discriminates against people who don't want to drink, or parents who maybe have to go home. But there are other ways that you can do that. I just read a really good book by a guy called Bruce Daisley, who's the European fan in the house.
He's got a good podcast.
Yeah, it's got a great podcast called Eat, Sleep, Work, Repeat, and he just wrote a book called The Joy of Work. Joy of Work, I think it's called. And so his job is he's the VP of Twitter for Europe and EMEA, and he gives us some examples in there of other things that people can do to kind of encourage socialising in the workplace that don't involve alcohol. And there's one, for example, where it was like a law company, and they just instituted crisp Thursdays. So on Thursday afternoons, they just get some crisps into the office. It's pretty basic. It's not like nothing sort of crazy or expensive, but just it was recognised that at that time everybody was down tools, and they'd go and eat some crisps and have a chat. And so I think there are ways of getting those kind of benefits. You don't want to lose the benefits of the kind of pub culture. You just want to
kind of
move them and make them.
It's almost like the social aspects of exercise, isn't it?
Exactly,
if you did kind of take away that pub Thursday and let's all just go to a yoga class where no one's really talking to one another, then you'd really miss that. So that's interesting.
And I think the alcohol culture does cut off people that don't drink, and they feel a bit awkward about it, and they feel like they're missing out on social interaction. Just finally, I just want to touch upon work-life balance, and obviously you guys work for small businesses, freelance. Do you have any kind of quick tips that you can share on trying to maintain a healthy work-life balance and what that looks like to you? I mean, I don't have one at all, so I can just give some advice.
I think mine, I mean, it's more, I guess it's more personal, kind of relevant to me, but I think I've got a toddler, and I felt like when he went into childcare and I was running the business, I felt like every minute he was in childcare, I had to be working. So I was either looking after him or I was working, and then just got totally frazzled and flat out and grumpy to be around. So for me, my work-life balance has been about realising when I'm in work time, it's also about, let's say, taking care of yourself as well. So it just feeds into what we've been saying, really, that it's not always about being glued to a desk and being productive, but actually going away, doing something nice for yourself is kind of the key to having that balance and merging between the two. That's kind of been my realisation. I mean, it's funny, you teach these things and you go and talk to people, but sometimes it's actually, they're not quite as easy to kind of practice what you preach. But that's for me.
Yeah, I think not feeling guilty when you don't have the perfect work-life balance is probably part of it. I'm not a massive fan, and I know some people here will be, of things like social media. I think that it portrays the perfect image of what everyone else wants the rest of the world to see. And so if you're constantly kind of flicking through these perfect images of perfect lives that aren't perfect in any way, shape or form, that if you're always comparing it and going, why am I having a fucking Boots meal deal again when someone's having their avocado on toast, that you're just feeling guilty constantly. And sometimes you've got to accept that, that's just what I've got to do today. And that it doesn't happen every day, but sometimes I've got to do that. For me, I just make sure I do some kind of exercise. Every single day I will do something. And I will always try and block out a time or fit it in the morning or in the evening so that I know that I'm going to do something and it's just part of my day.
Turn off notifications.
Yeah, I've done that as well.
If I could tell people to do one thing that would improve their happiness, stress level, well-being, in work and out of work, when you're trying to be at home with your partner or children or loved ones or friends or whatever, just turn off notifications.
Is that on everything, messages?
Everything, yeah, everything where possible.
Yeah.
Actually, to be fair, so my wife is about to give birth at any day now, so I have my phone set, so basically it's on Do Not Disturb permanently, but if my wife calls or my daughter's nursery, then the calls come through. I mean, again, I'm slightly different to, I imagine a lot of people know that I'm freelance, so I work for myself, so, you know, I don't have a boss that I have to like be on call for all the time, but at the same time, like, you know, whatever job you're in, I think that the vast majority of the communications you get are probably not emergencies, they're probably not urgent, and you'll massively increase your productivity and massively reduce your stress level if you just turn off notifications. Even if you just check your emails like every half an hour, like, you know, if you need to check that frequently, do. But if you can leave it to every hour or every 2 hours, or maybe even just like, you know, once at the start of the morning and once, you know, lunchtime, like it make a huge difference.
I think Slack is one of the worst things for that as well. Is that everyone sees this little pop-up come up and they're like, oh, what's going on? Go back to what was I doing again? I can't remember. And so I've turned off. I get nothing.
It's a massive productivity killer. People think they're being more productive by having things like that. And actually you're seeing more now of an email culture where people say now, you know, you're getting out of offices, people saying, I'm just quite busy at the moment, so I'll get back to you when I can, you know, because I mean, I think we're hopefully moving away from that urgency that people expect. Well, I've sent you an email, so why haven't they replied in an hour? Or like, oh, did you get my email? And it's like, hang on, you know, so actually, just trying to create some boundaries and taking control of your tech rather than the other way around.
We've got, when we have meetings, we've got a tech bucket, and you have to put your phone in there at the start of the meeting.
That's good.
That's where we got it.
Tech bucket.
Yeah.
Crisps and tech bucket.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for talking to me and sharing all your advice and everything. You're fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've got a couple of minutes now. If anyone from the audience would like to ask any questions for anything that we haven't covered, feel free.
I suppose my question revolves around corporates. I suppose especially to Alex and Sally. And the conversation that you're having with them, because everything you're saying, I'm nodding my head and I agree with. I guess the challenge is convincing them. So I suppose I've written it down. What's happening with corporates adopting these practices? How are your corporate clients listening, and how are you communicating it?
Okay, fab. Shall I go first? Okay, I might need to repeat some of the questions as we go. So I think it really depends on the culture. So our corporates really vary. So some are like really big companies like PwC, etc., and then others might just be like a graphic design agency of 10 people in Hackney. You know, so it really varies what people are doing. I think what can really help is stats and data. So going in there, you know, giving people some of these stats because they need it. It's a budget, so there isn't a hard and fast ROI. But if you can show people stats and data, and hopefully there's kind of more and more coming through, so that can kind of help the budget holders. Getting more senior people involved, finding wellbeing champions. So often falls to like the people who are in HR, or it might be like a PA or an EA who's organising it. But sometimes actually all it takes is someone who's in a completely different part of the business who maybe just really loves yoga, or maybe is just really into healthy eating, and they're kind of that champion for people who go to. So why can't it be up to them who can have some initiative and get the conversations going, you know, and then pass it over to HR or whoever to organise it. Generally the reception is good. You know, people know that it's nothing they can ignore. It's creeping higher and higher up the agenda, and it's becoming less of an HR issue and more of a cultural, organisational issue. So I hope that answers your 3 questions, unless I missed anything.
That's a lot of questions.
That's all right, I don't remember them all, yeah.
I think ROI is one of the biggest challenges. Obviously, you touched on it in the talk earlier. Is you can't say without a huge number of variables that you can't control that if you put £1 in, you get £4 back. If you're having a discussion with someone and they understand the value of exercise on being productive, then it's a much, much easier conversation, because they can then pass it on and have that argument or that discussion with their boss or whoever it may be as to why they should put a certain amount of money or time or whatever it may be into this. It kind of slightly depends on the size of the company. So if you've got a smaller company, then quite often you can instigate things a lot quicker, and they're also less concerned about that ROI. If you've got a larger company, then the procurement process obviously can be, as usual, kind of B2B sales can be very, very long. And also, if they're thinking about how exactly it's going to work, they'll come with lots of questions. But if they have someone that goes, yeah, this is brilliant, I want to use this, and it makes so much sense, then they can quite often push it through. So it very much comes down to the individual that you're trying to resonate with.
So that's kind of going in. Do you then have a mechanism when you're working with them to measure, so that you are then building up a data set, or you're building up a way you can present to either the client in question or people coming out saying, okay, this is what directly is. If you have mechanisms, obviously it is very difficult to measure.
Yeah, we have feedback forms, we do phone interviews, we get anecdotal stuff from the teachers and the facilitators who are in there, and then we'll send the clients like a kind of analysis on a sort of monthly or quarterly basis. So that's kind of what we're working with at the moment. But yeah, we're constantly trying to grow and evolve it and see what other people are doing and trying to encourage other people to share what they're doing, because yeah, we're all kind of learning in it together. But yeah, generally just a mix of qualitative and quantitative feedback.
Qualitative is quite easy to acquire. Quantitative is a lot more challenging. We're at our, if you want to ask our CTOs at the back, and who's kind of trying to figure out this model as to how we can do almost like an A/B test, where you take one group of a company and allow them to access physical benefits, and then you take another group and you see what the difference is. However, companies are quite reluctant to that, because when you've got Dave on this side saying this is great, and you've got Bob on this side saying, well, hold on a second, I'm not getting that, why not? And so to do any kind of testing is inherently very, very difficult. However, we're trying to figure out at the moment a way that we can kind of statistically measure that, but it's not easy. It's really not.
But I suppose it's time as much as anything.
You need a decent sample size, you need a decent length of time, and you also need to map it. Is it the engagement that's working well or not working? Is it the product that's working? Is it not working? Is it the way that they're communicating it? And so it's not just a case of does it work or does it not, because there's so many variables that are going into it.
Any other questions? No? Good.
Actually, so just what is, when you're speaking to corporates, like what is the hesitation? What is the concern with implementing these things? Like, obviously, that we're in a startup or Work.Life, and it's very like flexible, and you know we kind of dictate what we want to do, and as long as we get our work done. And I guess for me, it's very difficult to understand why. Like, where is the hesitation, and what is the block that's preventing corporates or bigger, even bigger, like 100-person companies? Doesn't have to be like 100,000 from implementing these changes.
Is it budget?
It's a combination of priorities, focus, time, and budget. And so if you let's say a company of 250 people, you're not going to have someone that's specifically focused on well-being. You might have maybe you've got an HR director and 2 HR admin assistants. Now, quite a lot of the time, if it's a 250-person company, they're probably doing things like payroll, they're doing onboarding, they might have a recruiter, they might be doing in-house recruitment. And so for them, well-being is kind of number 15 or maybe 20 of a list of priorities. And so it's quite easy for them to just roll that over and over and over and over again, because they get lost in that day-to-day of, I need to do this, I need to do that. It's the end of the month. Okay, well, that happens for 2 weeks every single month. So maybe you should think about something that you can do to kind of automate that, or how can you find time so that well-being becomes something that you can really work with. If you move up the chain, then to say a 1,000-person company, it might be that the HR director or the managing director, whatever the title is, simply thinks that they offer a gym membership, so they've done that. Literally, we've had discussions. They go, "Why do we need to offer this? We've got a gym membership." And yes, you can push back and you can have that argument, but if they've had a relationship with, let's say, one local gym for 10 years, then quite often they're not going to change. And so if they say, yeah, we've done that, then it'll be a cultural pressure over time that will make them understand.
We sometimes find if there's like a new MD's coming or a new HR person, that can sometimes be the kind of refresh that they need. But yeah, I think that's it. So we can sit here and we can talk about like, why can't you do yoga at lunchtime? Because just the culture that we're in. But you kind of have to remember, you go to some places and it's it's a really big deal and they all get really excited about it. And some companies, we were doing yoga in a bank and people just kept on cancelling at lunchtime because it was just apparent that there just wasn't a culture of being able to take a lunch break. They just didn't feel that they could do it. So yeah, we just have to kind of go in and you just have to meet people where they are. And if for them having a yoga class once a week is a really big deal, then you just have to support that, meet them there, and then kind of try and grow with them rather than expecting too much.
So I guess, a follow-up question is there a company that you think is doing it really well, and why do you think they're doing it really well?
Oh, I mean, there's loads. There's
a bigger company. Obviously, Work.Life is amazing.
I think. So for example, company. I mean, it's interesting what you say. So there are you're seeing more kind of popping up on LinkedIn. You're seeing more people who are kind of well-being managers, or it's becoming a bit more of a role for bigger companies. But yeah, places like Accenture and Deloitte, where there are so many people, so that they tend to have somebody who's maybe in charge of, like I met a guy the other day who's in charge of the wellbeing for 4,000 people, but what they're doing is they're kind of tailoring it down into various departments, and they'll have champions within different departments. So it's not just someone in HR, they'll actually have somebody who sits in, you know, some kind of operations team, but they're the wellbeing champion, which is nice because then they're kind of on the ground and they know their team better rather than just someone high up in HR saying, oh, I don't really know you guys, but you should do this, you know. So yeah, they're doing it at much more of a team level, which I think is working well for them. So they're doing different things across the business because it's so huge.
You always hear that Google, Facebook are like, oh, we've got sleep pods and we've got unlimited nitro brew coffee and all this kind of stuff. I think that sometimes companies think, oh, well, you know, that's, or employees think, that's what I want, that's what we really, really need. And so sometimes if you can bring it back down and get them to understand a little bit more that if you just offer something quite simple that actually works for lots of people, then you can actually have that, you can embed that wellbeing culture in over time. You see articles every now and then with fairly big companies that have launched something quite successfully. You never really know because you don't get the metrics, you don't actually know exactly how many people are using it, because quite often the companies that manage benefits for larger companies, so like 1,000 people plus, are managed through a platform, and that platform's not going to actually release that data saying, well, yeah, 4% of people actually use that, but we make lots of money, so it doesn't matter. There's lots of face level information, but if you dig into it, you can't really, is the problem.
Seeing what's genuine and what's not just a PR exercise. You know, wellbeing is a brilliant way to attract and retain staff, and I think it's like a stat saying like 58% of millennials now look for and expect a wellness package when choosing an employer. So yeah, it's just about making sure it's genuine and not just a way to entice new talent, like making sure it's actually happening.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
So if you enjoyed this talk, there'll be another one in a month's time about mental health and mental wellbeing. So I hope you can join us then. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.